Dream feels like it's a personal thing. It feels like the dream is all about you, but it's not necessarily all about you. It is just the story that you wrote to help you remember what you encountered in the great reservoir of all things and of all possibility.
Welcome to the space where mind, body, and spirit connect, and where in this union you can meet your true, authentic self. Learn new ways to improve your spiritual, physical, and mental health, and find your real purpose in life. This podcast is brought to you by mindbodyspirit.com.pl.
Hello. Today I will be speaking with Connie Kaplan, whose work I very much adore and is very close to my heart. First of all, she is a very kind and beautiful person, and also an author of many books, including The Invisible Garment, Dreams Are Letters from the Soul, Dreaming as a Spiritual Practice, which we will be focusing on today, and more. She is also a leader of dream circles and helps souls find their life purpose. Today we will be focusing on dreaming, on how Connie describes it and how Connie sees it. What I said is just a short description of Connie's work, and now I would like to give her voice and let her speak. My first question is, Connie, can you tell us a little bit about your past and how life guided you to the path of dreaming as it is today for you?
Sure. Hi, Victoria. Thank you so much for including me, inviting me. I'm very honored to get to speak to you and to the Dreamers of Poland. I mean, this is really quite exciting for me. So it happened like this. Always, even when I was a young child, I remembered my dreams. My mother was a big dreamer. Both of my sisters were big dreamers. We talked about our dreams often. There were even times when I had dreams that seemed to guide me, instruct me to do something or not to do something. So it's not an unusual thing for me to consider myself to be a dreamer. But when I was about, I'm going to say I was 38 years old. I was working in television production here in Los Angeles, California. And I woke up ill one morning, but I went to work anyway because, I don't know, that's what you do in television production. But I just kept getting worse throughout the day. And by noon, they just sent me home. And I thought, it was a flu or a viral infection of some kind. And I would be over it in a week. And they got somebody to fill in for me for a week. And I just went on this amazing downward spiral where I kind of lost my mind. And by that, I mean, I forgot how to do normal stuff. Like I forgot what you were supposed to do to get a phone to stop ringing. Or I forgot what a doorbell meant. My mind kind of wiped out. And I couldn't stay awake. I was sleeping like 15, 18 hours a day. And my doctor was running all kinds of tests and checking me for everything from a brain tumor to, encephalitis to, he must have run 45 different tests to see what was wrong with me. And they couldn't figure out anything. And so he finally said to my husband, I don't know what's wrong with her. I don't think it's going to kill her. So let's just let her sleep for a while and see, how long it takes. And it took 2 years. I was actually in that kind of state of being mostly asleep. It wasn't a coma or anything like that. I just slept all the time for a couple of years. And of course, during that time, I had a lot of dreams. And during the few hours a day that I was awake, I would try to write them down or at least take a few notes and try to remember, what was going on in the dreams. But I couldn't really remember from day to day. I would have a dream and I didn't necessarily remember that I'd had that same dream before. But a couple of years later, after I was able to stay awake, like 10 hours a day, I started reading my dream journals and I started seeing repetitive dreams. So here's an example. One of them was, there was this woman. She looked kind of like a Native American elder. She would gather up a group of women. She would take us into a cave. There would be drawings on the walls of that cave. She would have us recreate those drawings on paper or just scratching them on the sand on the floor or whatever. And then if we did them correctly, or at least to her liking, she would let us take a nap. So getting to take a nap in the dream was like a big, gold star or something. And as one would fall asleep, as I would fall asleep in those dreams to take my nap in the dream, she would point out the mouth of the cave and there would be the full moon. Well, so I would go to sleep in the dream seeing the full moon. After a couple of years of posting dreams in my journal, I reread the journal and I noticed that I had that dream as a recurring dream. So I got a lunar calendar, and sure enough, this dream showed up every full moon for 13 straight months. So every time I had this dream where I dreamed the full moon, it was actually a full moon dream night, even though I wasn't cognizant of that, in my waking life. So, and there were several recurring dreams like that. Most of which are recorded in Dreaming as a Spiritual Practice. So I realized, the dreams were telling me something about dreaming. So I started really studying the relationship between the moon and the kind of dream that one has on any given night. So it sort of took the dream out of or the idea of dreams out of the Jungian psychological analysis kind of thing and into a very different relationship with the moon and the woman or the person who's dreaming the dream and her relationship to the moon. And it just led into this very enormous study of how our relationship to the moon and our physiological relationship to our own cycles determines a lot about what we dream and why we dream what we dream.
That is a very good description. I feel like sometimes life guides us to seemingly difficult situations just to take us on the path where we feel our best and where we reach our fullest potential. And you mentioned that this view is very different than the traditional view of dreaming. In today's world, there are many descriptions of the word dream. Can I ask if you have some kind of definition of this word dream?
I do. Thank you for asking that. Yeah, so after all of this study, and I this is when the idea of dream circles first came about. I gathered, a group of friends around me, and we started talking about our dreams. And as we worked more and more with this idea of dreaming, we began to realize that when you go to sleep, your body goes into a regenerative process. Your physical body goes into a biological process. But your consciousness also goes into a process. The consciousness sort of leaves the body. You lose awareness of the bed and the room and the, whatever physiological circumstance you're in. And your consciousness starts heading back to the soul, where you plug in and get, sort of like plugging in your telephone at night to recharge it. You get a spiritual recharging of your consciousness. Now, on that journey back to the soul, you encounter all possibility. You encounter all probability. You encounter things that are not yet manifested. You encounter things that are in the morphic field of resonance, but not not in solid reality yet. Or you can encounter things that are in solid reality that are non-local to you, that you don't know about. So your consciousness actually has an interfacing with sort of collective energy and or divine energy. So on your way back to waking up, you want to remember that. So you write a story. Your mind writes a story about the encounter with energy and the exchange with energy that you had while you were asleep, that your consciousness had while it was asleep, or while your body was asleep. So you use your own lexicon of images and symbols and circumstances and information to write that story. So that's why the dream feels like it's a personal thing. It feels like the dream is all about you. But it's not necessarily all about you. It is just the story that you wrote to help you remember what you encountered in the great reservoir of all things and of all possibility. So that's why it's really important to learn how to listen to the dream as a story. And that's what we do in Dream Circle. Is when somebody brings a dream to the Dream Circle, what we say to ourselves is, what did this dreamer encounter in consciousness that inspired her to write this story? So it's no longer, what does this image mean, and what does that image mean, and what is this saying to you about you? It's, what was the dream realm trying to say to the dreamer that she could bring back into waking reality to share with everybody, to share with her dream sisters, to share with other people.
That is such a beautiful description, and I have read, of course, your book, and I have read the description, and I feel like coming straight from you, like the energy is very different, and I felt it even more deeply, so thank you. And acknowledging the title of Dreaming as a Spiritual Practice, how can dreaming be a spiritual practice? When I heard this first, I felt like, wow, this is just perfect, but it's hard to imagine. How can dreaming be a spiritual practice?
It's because if you're willing to accept the definition, that I just gave for what dreaming is, then dreaming is the way that we encounter spirit, that we encounter the soul, and that we encounter other beings, even though they're not local to us, and even though we may never know them, or we may never see them, we can encounter other beings, and we can encounter energies that are beyond the littleness of our waking reality. So when we have those encounters, they by definition expand us. Now that's kind of the goal that some spiritual practices set with meditation. But when you realize, for some people, sitting for a long period of time in meditation is very difficult, and it's also personal. If you sit in meditation, you're also aware of your body, you're sometimes fighting with your body, and you're dealing with this awakened mind that wants to be in control all the time. But if you allow dreaming to be your access to higher energies, spiritual energies, everybody does that, right? You may not be a person who remembers your dream, but everybody sleeps and everybody dreams, and so it becomes this great species-wide. And probably beyond species. I mean, I'm sure we dream into our pets and our animals, and even the trees and plants in our gardens. We access a wide spectrum of information that we can't access any other way, and that's my definition of a spiritual practice.
So you can say that everybody in some way has this spiritual practice, even if they're not aware of it.
Right, and even if they don't actually, participate in it. But let me just add here that, for example, when we come to Dream Circle, let's say, there are 8 to 10 people in the circle, and we have maybe 5 or 6 dreams that night. We don't look at the dreams as this is her dream and this is his dream and this is her dream. In fact, we don't even read our own dreams. We bring the dreams typed up on a piece of paper. We put the paper in the basket, and we all draw a dream. We don't even read our own dreams. So sometimes we don't even know whose dream we're commenting on as we talk about the dreams in the circle. We look at all of the dreams as the dream, the message that the dream realms wanted us to hear that night. So that takes it also out of the personal and into the sort of the collective spiritual realities.
I think that's very genius, because even in spirituality we have a tendency to be in ourselves, and we don't notice that, and this is a very good idea. I think some people may wonder, because in the subject of dreaming, lucid dreaming is very popular. Can you tell us what is the difference between the way you view dreaming and lucid dreaming?
Well, in the book that I wrote called Dreams Are Letters from the Soul, I outline 13 different types of dreams that people have, and lucid dreaming is one of them. But it is certainly not the most important one, nor the most impressive one. Lucid dreaming, most people define lucid dreaming as waking up in the dream. In other words, while you're in the dream, you realize that you're dreaming. The dangerous side of that is that some lucid dreaming teachers teach that when you wake up and realize that you're dreaming, you're supposed to then take control of your dream. But my point is, why would you do that? You take control of your waking life, and maybe it's not so great. So why would you want to mess around with taking control of the dreaming realms, of the spiritual realms? The spiritual realms are the realms where it controls you. It teaches you how to be the amazing being that you are. It teaches you how to be aware of broader spectrums of information. Why would you want to narrow the dream down to what you already think you know? So what I teach about lucid dreaming is that when you do wake up in the dream, just make sure that you learn how to be the witness and not the director, of the dream. Just make sure that you realize, this dream is so important that it has awakened me. Let me see what it has to say.
And do you feel that we could use this way of letting go of control in this reality, this dream this waking reality or whatever you call it, and also be the witness of our own life.
Absolutely. In my other book, I know we're supposed to be only talking about the dream book today,
It's okay,
but
it's okay.
in the book, The Invisible Garment, that body of information basically says, you may think that you're here to learn lessons or to accomplish something or to achieve something or to produce something, but really you're here to deliver a gift from soul into form. And the way you do that is to become the gift. And the way you become the gift is to let it live itself through you. You don't use it. You don't control it. You don't, become its creator. You let the gift express itself through you. And when you do that, I call it the difference between doing and being. When you learn to be the gift that is you, anything that you are to do shows up to be done. This interview is a perfect example, right? I have learned to be a dreamer. I didn't call you. I didn't manage this. Somehow, in our own personal spiritual processes, our paths crossed, and here we are doing an interview because who else could do this interview? It's only you and me. No one else can do this, right? That's because we've had both learned to be our gift, and the doingness showed up to be done. And the same thing is true of every listener.
Yes.
Every listener, somehow, this interview showed up to be heard. Right? So, yeah.
Yeah, just by letting go. Actually, before this interview, I was speaking with my friend, and she asked me, what is my secret? Because she feels like I am, that I have many gifts in my life. And I feel very gifted lately. And I just told her actually to let go, to kind of trust in whatever happens. And this is so nice that this topic is showing up right now. And if someone listening to this interview would want to take some steps and be more aware and conscious about dreaming and use it more as a spiritual practice, what small steps for the beginning can he take?
Well, for starters, the Dreaming as a Spiritual Practice book is available, and it's available in Polish also. Yeah. So, that first small step of just reading and starting to integrate a different way of looking at the dream is good. Also, I have a website called turtledreamers.com, like turtle the animal. And the reason I named it Turtle Dreamers is because the Native American people and the Native Australian Aboriginal people call North America Turtle Island. And so, because it kind of looks like a turtle if you stop and think about it, with Florida being one leg and California, Baja being another leg. But anyway, so turtledreamers.com has got a lot of information about dreaming. And one of the things that we have on turtledreamers.com is called the International Dream Circle. If you subscribe to the International Dream Circle, there are women from all over at this point only women, but there are women literally from all over the world who are sharing dreams with each other and speaking to each other about the dreams. So it's like you don't have to be there at a certain time at a certain place. You go on and you click the thing and then you record your dream, and then people watch you recording your dream, and whenever they want to, and they respond to your dream. And it's really, really rich for us to hear how we're dreaming similar dreams around the world. like last month, there was a lunar eclipse. Mm-hmm. And many of us around the world had very similar dreams on the night of the lunar eclipse. And they were dreams about the transformation of the masculine energy. It was fascinating. So that's a really fun thing to do, is to kind of join up with people, around the world to hear what kinds of dreams we're dreaming together. Because first comes the dream, and then comes the manifestation. So as dreamers, we are dreaming in the new world. We're creating the new world together. And, Lord knows we need a new world right now, because we're not doing that great with some of the old paradigms.
So it's kind of like a responsibility to use this beautiful practice and create a beautiful new world. I'm very grateful for your time, and I feel very blessed and honored that we could have this experience. I am also very excited to announce to our listeners that we will be having a webinar in September. And can I ask, what more will we learn during this webinar? What should our listeners get excited about?
Well, it can go kind of any direction you want to. We can talk more about how the lunar influence affects your personal dreaming. So in other words, the way I teach that is we look at your natal chart, your natal astrological chart. We see where the moon was when you were born. We look at how every month, when the moon returns to that sign and or that phase, it affects your dreams differently. And then we look at ways that the lunar influence shows up with, if you are still menstruating woman, how it shows up differently during different parts of your menstrual cycle. So it's we can really go into that, about how to learn how to chart your dreaming patterns. Every person has unique dreaming patterns. So you do have to do a little work, a little research. But there's that. And we can also talk about things like nightmares and what they're all about, recurring dreams and what they're all about. There's lots we could go into, just depending on which directions you want to go.
So we'll let it just be and see what happens. But I'm sure it's going to be a very beautiful webinar. Thank you very much for your time, and speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. This has been my pleasure.
You've been listening to Mind, Body, and Spirit Connection podcast. We'll be grateful if you leave your comments and share it with people that you care about. Visit us on mindbodyspirit.com.pl.